Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for stopping in. If this is your first time visiting the channel, we feature nothing but classic Japanese cars and the people who preserve, maintain, drive, and collect them. And today we are going to be heading north again about an hour away from my home base. We'll be up in the Deer Valley area visiting with Brad DeSantis. Now, Brad is a very well-known member of the car community around here. He organizes the Rising Sun Rally, which I have covered a few times. He has had his own podcast for many years now, Auto Off Topic, and I will link to that in the description. And just an all-around good car guy, willing to help everyone out who needs it. And he's been bitten by the Mitsubishi bug. And he's kind of like me, where he enjoys a lot of these cars that kind of fly under the radar, that don't get a lot of attention, and he's got quite a few of them we're going to take a look at. So again, thank you for stopping in, and let's get into it. Okay, so we're here with Brad. Brad, first of all, thanks for letting us take a look around your property and see what you've accumulated here.
Hey, thanks for wanting to take a look at my junk. I appreciate that.
This isn't, no, this isn't junk, believe me.
A little self-deprivation makes it seem more reasonable to me, I think, sometimes.
But what I like to ask people here in the beginning, what brought you to this point? Like how long ago did you get into cars, and specifically classic Japanese cars? What drew you to these cars?
In order to keep the video short, I'll try to be as succinct as I can. What got me into cars is my family.
Okay.
My grandfather he owned a Willis dealership, an auto body shop, and a suspension shop in Salem, Massachusetts, where I'm from.
Willis, is that what we call Willie's Jeep?
Yeah,
okay, so I know some people say
the official pronunciation is supposed to be Willis.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he sold Willis vehicles at a company that was called DeSantis Motors in Salem, Massachusetts, again, where I grew up. My father was infected by him with the car disease. And then I grew up going to car shows and cruise nights and whatnot with my dad, and I couldn't avoid it. So
it's been a part of your whole life.
My whole life. This Camaro I'm leaning on, I've technically owned since I was 8 years old. Okay. So that's kind of the way the story goes.
It was a family heirloom. Okay, so somewhere along the line, it went from Chevy Camaros to some Japanese cars. Now, was that just personal taste, or how did that come about?
I think it's timeline, right? I mean, everybody has the cars they grew up with. Just shy of 45 years old. So I grew up in the 80s and into the 90s. And yes, I had a 68 Camaro, thankfully, to my father's, thinking about it when I was little and buying it when it was a 20-year-old used car. But I couldn't afford to get into heavy Cudas and big block Mustangs and all the stuff that was in the 90s when I got my driver's license. Absurdly expensive. So couple that with growing up in the 90s with PlayStation and Gran Turismo really opening my eyes to a whole different realm of cars that are out there. And then even in the model side of things, the best model car kits you could get as a kid were the Tamiya models.
Okay.
And they were all of Japanese cars. So it really, between Gran Turismo and building model cars, that's what really stuck me into the Japanese car stuff. This is a 1979 Toyota Cressida. So Cressida was the prototype to Lexus, essentially. It was the luxury car that Toyota made before they had their own luxury brand. I first got my first Cressida in probably 2005. It was a third generation. They call it an X73 chassis code. It was a very rusty car. Like I said, I lived in New England. It was almost free. It belonged to my landlord, actually, at the time, the apartment I was living in. And I needed a car for winter. And I purchased that car from him for, I think, a couple $100, or maybe even it was free. I don't remember now. But that rusty junk 80, I want to say 85 X7 chassis Cressida really stuck me into these Toyota Cressidas. And now I've had, I think, 3 of them over the years. This car came from Southern California. Let me move this other Toyota engine out of the way here for you. It came from Southern California. It was sold to a drifter and by drifter, obviously, I mean sliding drifter, not person without a home. It belonged to a drifter in Seattle who had every intention of making a drift car out of it, which would have been an absolute shame because it's at the time, 70,000 mile original paint car. He couldn't make it not overheat. So my assumption was he probably wouldn't have made a very good drift car anyway. It sold to a friend of mine in Massachusetts who shipped it across country for not much money. He had it for a while. He worked on it a bunch, decided he didn't want to dig into finding why it was overheating. And I begged and pleaded him to sell it to me. And he did for what he was into it for. I redid the cylinder head and head gasket. That was the issue with the overheating. That was in probably 2011. I've probably put 10 to 15,000 miles on it myself.
Yeah.
And we love it now, and I take it everywhere.
Would you be willing to pop the hood?
It's very dirty.
It's okay.
I do drive it, and I've actually never done anything as far as cleaning under here. It's always just been a runner. It's bone stock, other than it has a Weber carburetor, and you'll see the suspension.
I'm so used to hoods opening up from the backside.
Not a Mazda, Sonny. So yeah, it's dirty, but it's there. So it works. It runs and drives. You'll see it does have camber plates there. It does have full techno joy tuning. Excuse me, coilovers in the front, and it has Supra lowering springs in the rear with the 3rd gen Camaro shock absorbers to make it work. So.
And this has air conditioning.
It has all the bells and whistles of a luxury car of the time.
So this would have been like one of their top of the line models.
This was the top of the line model. Like I said, this essentially, they stopped making the Cressidas when they started making Lexuses. Okay. That's pretty much what happened. So as far as the American market goes, I mean, there's definitely a lot of other.
Well, I see with that kind of like interior with the really plush upholstery and stuff like that.
Not only does it have air conditioning, but it has automatic temperature controlled air conditioning. You set a temperature and leave it there. Like
like modern day
cars. Like a modern car, yep.
Wow, that was ahead of its time, wasn't
it? For sure, yeah, for sure.
All right, Brad, moving on. What do we have here? Why do you have a Dodge in here?
Yeah, so in the year after I graduated high school, I bought an Eagle Talon. Remember the Eagle Talons?
Oh, yeah.
They were rebadged, essentially rebadged Mitsubishi Eclipses. And much like with the Toyotas, I started looking into the previous history of Mitsubishis. And I learned that they were very successful in racing in the 70s and 80s with their Mitsubishi Lancer and later their Starions. And I learned that you could get a Mitsubishi Lancer in the United States as long as you didn't mind it saying Dodge Colt on it. So I got completely obsessed because I also love rally racing. And these cars were head-to-head competition with the Mark I and Mark II Escort all through the 70s and in the early 80s. Mark I and Mark II Escorts are great. I'd love to own one. They were way outside my price range. I think I paid $1,200 for this. So it's the same basic layout as the typical Mark I, Mark II Escort of the time. So it's a McPherson strut front with a solid axle rear, 4-cylinder, 4-speed, tiny little coupe, weighs about 1,900 pounds, and is just a ton of fun to use and drive. So I got obsessed with Dodge Colts. At one point, I had 4. So
Okay.
it became a complete and total obsession.
It happens.
It does. This is the 3rd generation of the Dodge Colt. The first 2 Dodge Colts were rebadged Mitsubishi Gallants, and then the 3rd generation was a Mitsubishi Lancer. So it's a 1.6 liter 4G32. And if you know anything about Mitsubishis, you know the 4G engine series is the famous one that eventually wound up in the Eclipses and the Evos, the 4G63. It's an original car, original paint. Obviously, you can see the clear coat fade. Original interior is pretty beat up, but put some seat covers on it. And when this thing's out and about and cleaned up, it shines up pretty nice. So those are American Racing Libras. You see a lot of Datsun guys run those.
Yeah.
I was looking for a set of wheels that would fit, and obviously these arches aren't very big. Those are, I think, 14 by 5.5. And I think the tire is a 175, and even at that, the fenders are rolled. So a little bit. The back ones especially. But it changed the whole look of the car. When I took the factory steels off and put those on, and the car was lowered a little bit, it made the car look. It went from being an economy car to a sports car.
More aggressive,
yeah.
more.
Yeah, you could really see the rally car aesthetic. And the only other visual changes are the front bumper's been tucked in, and it has the driving lights on it, which you saw when you were standing in front of the car. So that's the only other big changes. The interior, like I said, is stock. It's a little dirty because it's been sitting. It does have an old school SunTac. I think it's a SunTac. Maybe it's a Bosch. I don't remember now. SuperTac. SunPro SuperTac. That's what it is. But that's what a Colt would have looked like in 1978. Other than that, it's not a lot of frills. But
well, you don't see them. You don't really see a lot of them out there anymore.
No, they used to advertise the fact that it had pop-out windows because it has the pop-out style glass, reclining seats, and the big one, the locking gas door. That was the big ad back in the day. So.
The amazing new 1978 Dodge Colt provides more confusion for Mr. D and Mr. T.
You ought to be congratulated, Mr. T.
I was about to congratulate you, Mr. D.
The imported 1978 Colt features a special MCA jet engine for quickness with improved economy. In fact, the new Colt got EPA mileage estimates of 46 highway and 35 city.
Surely it's one of yours, Mr. T.
The amazing new 1978 Dodge Colt isn't a Toyota, isn't a Datsun. It's a lot of little Dodge.
Which still is relevant today with gas at $30+ a gallon.
Yeah, it is. Well, especially here in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona right now, gas is almost $4 a gallon. It's just a very simple, longitudinal 1.6 liter 4-cylinder.
You don't have to worry about anybody else showing up with one when you take this out.
No, there aren't very many of us. Yeah, you can see my evidence of my overheating over here. It was burbling out of the overflow tank. So unfortunately, I think it needs a head gasket. I think that's where my diagnostics have led me, but it's fine. It's been
Arizona is not kind in that respect.
It is not, but I also don't drive these things in the summertime because they don't have air conditioning. You know, they're definitely windows down, fresh air vents wide open. But it's bone stock carburetor. The only thing that's been upgraded in this is it has Petronics ignition. I think it's the only thing I did to it.
It's a 2-barrel or
it is a 2-barrel.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when did Mitsubishi and Dodge, when did they start their relationship
1970
together?
Was the first official.
With the pickup truck? Or?
It was Dodge Colt. A Dodge Colt.
Oh, a Colt.
That was the first one. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the first gen Dodge Colt, again, it was a Mitsubishi Galant, not a Lancer, but similar size to this. They even had a more American style to them than these do. I've never had a first gen Colt. I've had second, third, fourth gens, but never a first gen. So it's on the list. So if you got one for sale, don't call me. They're still inexpensive. They're relatively unknown. Mitsubishi has been terrible at marketing its entire existence in the States. I mean, just this car alone. In the United States, this is a Dodge Colt. In Canada, this would have been a Plymouth Cricket. What makes that even more confusing is in America, you could buy a Plymouth Cricket, but it wasn't a Dodge Colt or a Mitsubishi at all. It was a Hillman Avenger rebadged as a Plymouth Cricket. But then in Japan, it was a Mitsubishi Lancer. But then in Australia, it was sold as a Chrysler.
Well, that might have been another part of their problem.
Yeah, their marketing was terrible.
I know with the same thing with this car over here, like the Conquest. It was
sure. The main reason for that was Dodge didn't have a small car in the 70s, and everybody wanted a small car in the 70s. Volkswagen was starting to sell cars. Toyota was starting to sell cars. Chevy was coming out with the Chevette and the Vega. Ford had a Pinto. AMC had a Gremlin. Dodge had nothing. So instead of engineering their own car, they went to Mitsubishi, who wanted to break into the American market, and said, hey, we'll sell so many cars badged as Dodges until you guys have your own established dealer networks here, which happened in 83. But they didn't stop rebadging cars until, it still happens. So, but this one right here.
Okay, so that brings us to the Starion. Now, these 4 are in your new garage. Are these the 4 that are like most important? Oh, I know the Camaro is the most important to you, but are these like would you say are in a different tier?
No, this one's in the garage now because I'm working on it.
Okay.
I think it eventually will live in the garage because it's a very nice car. Once we get into it, you'll see that. During my Eagle Talon ownership, I learned about Starions. They were Mitsubishi's first turbocharged car. It became eventually the 3000 GT was the replacement for the Starion. And much like you had alluded to earlier when talking about the Colt, these were also sold as Dodges and Chryslers and Plymouths, depending on where you bought it and what year it was. But they were always called a Conquest if they weren't called a Starion. This is my 6th or 7th Starion Conquest that I've owned. I've loved these cars. I think about my first one in 2000 or 2001. I have another one almost identical to this that I've had since 2009. That, to fast forward the story a little bit, I purchased this car because it's an Arizona solid shell, and my intention was to transfer all of the parts over from that car I've had since 2009 because I bought it already rusty with the intention of driving it in the winter on the East Coast, but then fell in love with it because the interior is so nice and the engine runs so nice and the suspension is very nice in the car. So I've been looking for a solid, straight Arizona shell to transfer everything over to. That being said, you'll see why I'm not going to do that once we get a little deeper into this. But I had found this car. It's exactly the car I was looking for. I wanted a white 84 narrow fender. If you know Starions and Conquests, everybody knows the later cars with the big blister fenders. This is an earlier version of the Starion Conquest before they widened them. I actually...
底知れぬポテンシャルを秘めて今ターボスペシャリティスポーツスタリオン新登場三菱から
As you pan into the interior there, you open the door if you want so you can get a good look in there. It is incredibly nice that this car has survived as well as it did in Arizona. So it's going to be a very nice car without swapping all the interior parts in. But to your original conversation there about the Mitsubishis outselling the Chryslers, my experience is in buying these, most of them that I found are Conquests because they were just more Dodge dealers than there were Mitsubishi dealers. You know, there were no Mitsubishi dealers until 1983, and that was the first year of the Starion Conquest. You never find the 83. 83 is some cool individual 83 only parts. My favorite feature is right here. The graphic equalizer, so very 80s.
I was going to say, if that's not 80s, I didn't live in the 80s.
Yeah. And its radio actually worked great.
And it has to be Dolby.
Of course. For the tape deck. But anyway, so I found this car. Again, the intention was to swap over all of the tan and brown two-tone interior from my other white 84. But this car is just, it's after a solid, 15 or 20 hours cleaning it, It doesn't need to be replaced.
I would never have believed this thing sat outside.
It sat outside for an untold amount of years and had no window in the passenger side, a bag over it. So it was quite dirty, and the ashtray was full of cigarettes, and everything was covered in black tar. But after some scrubbing and a lot of very specific chemical guys, interior products, it's come to life. The back seat is possibly like new.
Yeah.
I was looking at the seat belts.
I mean, it's tight back there. Don't get me.
Oh yeah,
but it's practically like never been sat in.
Now, I was looking at the seat belts. There's no scratches on the receiver, like where it goes into the on the not the receiver, the other end that goes into the receiver, like it's never been plugged in. So, and the cool feature, look at the seat belt on the door. It says turbo, turbo, turbo all over it.
Yeah,
such a cool feature. But so this car here is now getting cleaned up. It's jacked up, as you can tell from the video. Gas tank is out of it because it had untold years fuel in it, and it was leaking out of the gas tank. So I'm fixing the gas tank. I do have plans for this car. I have a set of 15 by 7.5 Watanabes that are going on the car, and it'll get coilovers, and it'll get some engine stuff, and there's gonna be a front mount intercooler from the later car going on it. But the plan is to make a nice street car, probably 200 to 250 horse, nothing crazy, just a fun little car I can take up over like 89A into the highway runs, or the mountain passes around here, I guess you call them.
Now, about this seatbelt, is this one of those where when you get in the driver's seat and close the door, it automatically goes forward?
Nope, it stays right there on the door.
Okay.
The later cars had those. 86, I think, to 89, they had the automatic seatbelts. But these cars, they were attached to the door. So
very solid.
Yeah, the car is incredibly nice. It belies what I thought I was buying. I legitimately thought I was buying a parts car. I went up there with the expectation of buying a parts car, and to be fully honest, I paid parts car pricing, and expected to be getting a parts car.
Now your keeper car has become your parts car.
My keeper car is, yeah, exactly. Well, again, that was always the intention. The intention was it was going to be a parts car, but the shell was going to be what was going to be saved. The story goes, the person I bought it from is the son of the owner who purchased it in 1986. So it had, I think,
same family.
Same family. I had the original 1986 title came with it.
Oh,
and
okay.
The address on that title is the same address that I went to pick the car up. So it's never left Globe, Arizona until now. It only has 83,000 miles on it. I have not run this car yet. It does turn over. Next step is to make it run factory stock before I do little things here and there to it. But
that's a nice find.
Yeah, no, I couldn't be happier with this. Couldn't be happier. I was leaving for a trip back to Massachusetts to visit my family 2 days after I found out about the existence of this car. So I had to scramble to make it happen. But big thanks to my friend Ron for always being willing to make last minute trips to go pick up cars, and to Naomi again for
it found a good home. It's in a brand new garage, and it's going to be given a second life.
Yeah. My hope is I own it as long as the previous owner did. So
okay, so we're back to Toyotas again.
All Toyotas and Mitsubishis. That's all the Japanese stuff here. So this one is not been around as long, maybe 2 years, 2.5 years. It's a 1980 Toyota Corolla, TE72, they call the chassis code. It's the last of the rear-wheel drive Toyota Corollas.
Okay.
1.8 liter 3TC. I think it's the only year with the round headlights. I think they changed after that to a single square. I much prefer the round headlights.
You put the fender mirrors on, right?
No. I strongly dislike fender mirrors. I ran into a kid at PAVS, Rest in Peace, Pavilions Car Show.
Oh, yeah.
Who had another Corolla, same body style, but
Can I open
sedan.
the door?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Same body style, but a sedan. And he loved my fender flares. And I said, well, you have pristine, uncut fenders. I said, I will gladly trade you my 2 fenders, all 4 flares, and my wheels for just your fenders. And the kid was probably, I don't know, 19, 20 years old, and he was ecstatic.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He was ecstatic because he had stock Steelies and he had stock fenders and the whole 9. His car had these fenders on it that already had fender mirrors.
Oh, okay. So that's where they came from.
Came with the fenders, excuse me. The funny thing is that my fenders that I sold to him also had fender mirrors on from one of the previous owners. I dislike them strongly. I do have a factory mirror for it. When I finish the motor, I'm probably going to do some body work, fix the holes in the quarters. I'm going to remove the fender mirrors and put the mirrors back in the doors where they belong, and they're more useful because they're not useful at all up here.
Well, you need two people to set your mirrors.
Yeah, and then they're TBA ones, so they just flop around all the time. Let's see, what else does this car have? The car had completely blown out suspension when I got it. Yeah, it's not clean back there. It's become a storage bin until it's broken.
There's a head.
That is the cylinder head for this car. That carpet, believe it or not, came from Home Depot. It matches the colors of the car nicely, and it hides the completely burnt out factory carpet that's back there.
Well, for a wagon, I think the interior is held up really nice. I mean, this was like a family car.
That back seat is the original seat material. The front seats have been
So the door panels look good.
Door panels are original. Yeah, it's. So the story of how I got this car.
Let's see, that was probably the original paint there.
Yeah, it's a little more red than brown. The story with how I got this car was my stepson got it in a trade. And anybody who knows my stepson knows that he buys and sells cars at a rate that most of us buy coffee in the morning. So I knew it wasn't going to be around long, and I fell in love with the car. So Naomi and I made him a deal. Paid some of his bills, gave him some cash, bought him some stuff for his business, and in exchange took the car.
All right, folks. Well, as you can tell, we were quickly running out of daylight at this point. But there was still so much more to see. Brad has a Mitsubishi-built Dodge Ram 50 mini pickup. There was a Plymouth Sapporo. He's got an Eclipse, another Starion. So we're going to work with him and try to get up to his place and maybe bring you part 2 of this. But for now, that's going to wrap things up. Stay safe out there, and we will see you next time.